What if you could make money with your voice while you sleep? Today we're going to talk to a professional narrator who's doing just that. He's working with ElevenLabs, and he's figured out a way to license his voice and make passive income, truly passive income, after he's done that work. It's a really interesting story. We're also going to touch on how he got into publishing. It's a really interesting father-daughter story where he helped his daughter, who was a minor, to pursue her dream of publishing. In that process, he started to learn all these different technologies to make sure that he could get her books formatted, do all the great things that a publisher needs to do. So there'll be two kind of topics here that we go through. One, supporting an author, especially a young author, and then two, how he has been pushing into the audiobook world as a narrator. He's one of the leading voices in the UK. I can't remember if he shares numbers in here, but he did share numbers with me. So I'll hold off on that. But they're significant. It's something that if you're a narrator and you've been concerned about what's going on with the whole idea around AI voices and text to speech, what if this isn't the end of your business, but the beginning of a new way for you to scale up your business while protecting your most precious asset, your voice? That's something we're going to explore, not only in this video, but at the show. A big announcement that we have is ElevenLabs is going to be a sponsor at our event, and we'll be there to help authors and narrators figure out how they can use their tools to scale up their business. With that being said, let's get to that interview with Simon Patrick at the Self-Publishing Show in London, where we met and had this chance to talk. Hey, it's Joe Solari here with Author Nation, and we're in London at the SPS Live Show. And today we have a special guest. We have Simon Patrick. And why don't you introduce yourself and explain all the stuff that you're doing and what your family's up to?
Thank you, Joe. It's a joy to be here and to meet you. I love the podcast. It was really inspiring. Yeah, so I'm here with my daughter Abby. 5 years ago, she basically came to us and said, "I'm writing a book. I'm bored in college. Can I drop out and be an author?" And
you said, "Hell no."
We said, "Finish the term, do the work experience." She was still adamant it wasn't for her. And so I said, "Right, if you're going to be a writer, I will learn to be a publisher." And that was 2 months before the very first self-publishing show in London. Amazing timing.
So that was
2020. Yeah. So came to that. She was 17. Came to that, absolutely inspired, and getting together with other authors in any context of just what is possible. Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, before her 18th birthday, we had published her first book. We've just published her 6th book. Abby Hope Patrick is her author name. And she's actually part of the Self-Publishing Show team now. She's a Bookstagrammer, loves Instagram, so she's been doing social media the whole time here as well. So, yeah, fantastic. And I know we want to talk about audio particularly, right?
Yeah, I think we can kind of bounce around a few things. We are going to have a complimentary podcast to this with Abby on it, where we'll talk to her a little bit about her background and kind of tapping into what it's like to be a new young author.
Yes.
I think when you look at the demographics at any author conference, it tends to be more towards middle age, a lot of female demographics.
Absolutely.
So it might be a little intimidating for somebody that's young to show up at something like
She's
this.
generally been 10 years younger than the next youngest here. So it's great. Yeah, it's great you're thinking this way. I would love to see younger authors, just for teenagers at this point of thinking what they want to do with their lives, to understand that actually becoming an author is honestly an option for them, right? And you look at some of the historical, Mary Shelley's 18-year-old, when she published Frankenstein, right? And I think we do need to say, what can we do for those? So I'm great. You chat to her about that.
Yeah, we'll get into that, because I do believe that we're at a different age where, just going and doing it and figuring out this stuff at places like this.
Yes.
or at Author Nation, where it's a different. It's kind of like a college degree in a week. And it's very different. It's not what you would learn at a university. And I don't think I was talking to you about this, but I was mentioning it to somebody else. I went to business school, and a professor, really intelligent guy, and he came to me. He understands what I'm doing in publishing, and he's like, I've got this book I want to write.
Yeah.
And I'm really thinking I should self-publish it. But all the guys I talk to are like, you can't. You have to get a university press, and you have to do this. Yeah. I'm like, Ron, I was in your class. I know what you teach. Your book is not for other professors. Yes. Your book is for entrepreneurs and business owners. Yeah. We don't care that it's from University of Chicago Press. We just want a really good book. Go write it.
Yeah, get it out there.
Right? But even at that level, it's the stigma. Like, but what's that going to do to your career? Mm-hmm. It's like, well, it may actually make a career.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, there's a risk involved.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why I'm excited about, younger people trying this, because for me, the thing that really got Abby to publish the first book, she'd been writing it for 2 years. It was like secret, just like, I've been writing a book, she finally told us.
Yeah.
And, we could have worked on that book, or she could have worked on it as an author for another year or two if we'd let her. I found a story in a book called Art and Fear, true story about a ceramics teacher who gave half his class, he was teaching pot making, half the class he said, you've got to make a perfect pot, and I'm going to grade you on that. To the other half of the class he said, I'm going to grade you according to how many pounds of pots you make. They just have to hold water, I don't care what they look like. And for 12 weeks, one group are like crafting this thing, they're trying to make perfect. The other half are just chucking in these pots that'll just about hold water. But at the end of that term, what happened, and he was doing this as a deliberate test, the people who'd made lots of pots made the best pots. And I think this is not just a message for teenagers, this is for actually a lot of guys struggling with their first book. Yeah. Chuck it in the kiln, get it out there. The goal for Abby and I, we said, by your 5th book, we want it to be great.
Yeah.
Right? And get the first ones out. You will learn so much in writing and publishing 2 or 3 books that no one's going to remember when it takes off for you, because you've honed your craft. You're actually finishing books and getting them out to the world.
Yeah, and I think that especially for somebody that hasn't finished a book yet, there's so much that you learn just in the process of doing it, right?
So much.
And then, my wish is that your first book is not your best book, right? Like, if that is, you're like, either it's phenomenal, right, and you're always chasing that dream, or you never get better. And either case, it's not a good outcome. So,
well, you talk to most guys who've got 30 books in their library, right? And they say, please don't read the first few.
Yeah.
Joanna Penn. So I've just produced Joanna Penn's latest audiobook, and she has rewritten her first 3 books recently because she loves the later parts of the series. But she did an amazing episode where she went back and analysed all the things she's learned that she never knew. Yeah. And honestly, one of the most interesting episodes she's ever done.
I'll have to go back and listen to that. Yeah. Because, most authors won't do that.
No.
They know what they've learned, but they don't want to go back to that phase and be like, oh God, it was right?
Too right.
Right? Yeah. Just no, I'm moving forward.
That's so much. Yeah.
So I think when we got talking earlier, what was so intriguing was how in that process you embraced audio, started figuring out, I think you're kind of a vanguard in respect to what you're doing with AI and some of this work that you've been doing with ElevenLabs. We know when this comes out, ElevenLabs is going to be a sponsor, and they're going to be at Author Nation, and that came kind of out of this weird introduction that we had.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I got them to sponsor this show, so. Well, so the story for audio is we as a family love audiobooks. I love them. My wife listens to them constantly. Abby adores them. So the frustration when we found there were tools for me as a publisher to get her book typeset and get it out into the world. But audio, we just hit a wall. It's this is going to cost me a couple of £1,000 to do this thing to the quality that we wanted. And that's just, her books are not selling enough to even justify that.
Yeah.
And I know people say there are things like royalty share on ACX, right? I morally question if a book that I don't think is going to make me money, am I prepared to split 50-50 with someone?
Yeah, fair enough, right?
Yeah.
And there's kind of two sides to that. The guys that you really want, they're not going to want to royalty share with you. Like they're going to pick guys that they know are going to make them a lot of money.
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, we got to the point I was literally building a recording studio at the end of my garden because the only option was to self-narrate this thing. And you know, I'm really into tech and AI. ChatGPT was just blowing up. Avidly listening to Joanna Penn's podcast about all the emerging, and I fell across this thing called ElevenLabs, like early beta test. I was user 202 on their Discord, right? And it was like, this is a breakthrough. Even the very earliest model, there's something special here. You could only do 5,000 characters. That's not a lot of words.
Yeah, I remember in the early days.
Yeah. So in there, I was like, right, how do I break up Abby's book into 5,000 character chunks? And it was my first bit of coding I ever did with ChatGPT. It was like, take her book, break it up into chunks. So I made this clunky first audiobook with her. I think must have been one of the first audiobooks they ever did. They kind of loved that, and it wasn't even on anybody's radar. We could put it through BookFunnel. They were beta testing the product. We used PayHip to kind of offer it, so super early days. And yet we've seen that product evolve now. So because I was in there early, they've been getting feedback from me, kind of representing authors. They've got others. They're great at asking for advice and input. So we've seen the studio tool emerge for them, which is where you can take a complete EPUB, the same thing that you put up onto Kindle Direct, and just it formats it by chapter, and you can just beautifully work through that. And I've done a demo for this show of how that's done. And that product has evolved so much now that we are looking. So the cost was the big barrier for us with audiobooks. A couple of thousand, a starting point for a proper one, and a lot of work involved in dealing with the narrator, and it's a real challenge. I've just done Abby's book, 71,000 words. And the core cost for it was $77, right? And yeah, there's...
Now, when you say the $77,
yeah,
just so folks that are listening, is that like by token, like words, like or is that?
So
like
they have subscriptions. They have subscriptions. The level you need to be doing audiobooks for your own book at a quality that's going to be accepted by Spotify and BookFunnel to be put out into the world is 192 kilobits per second. That's like the standard industry requirement. You get that with a pro subscription, which is $99. And that will output it. That will also give you about 10 hours of audio as part of that. Now, it works out. I don't want people thinking this is a one-click wonder. Sure, you can drop your book in and just not even listen to it and put it out there. For me, something Abby's been working on for a year, I've spent weeks working on covers and typesetting it, right? Why would I think to do that with the audio?
Yeah.
So it's, as an experienced user, it's taking me 2 or 3 days to work through that book, line by line, listening to it, because the tool gives me the ability to change the nuances. Dialogue still is a challenge of getting it to express it. But yeah, we're looking $100 to $150 to get that done. And I love, you don't have to stick with that $99 subscription, right? Once you've done your book, go back to $5. You're not tied in. And when you've got another audiobook to do, you just bump it up again. Yeah. So I love that. And I think the other thing that I think we're going to move on to is it's done in Abby's voice, right? So Joanna Penn, so I've just produced her Death Valley book, which is done in her voice. So about 18 months ago, ElevenLabs gave the ability to create your own professional voice clone, they're called. I take 2.5 hours of someone reading anything, and then that will train their system to make a voice that is incredibly realistic and like them. There's some tips we can go into of how to do that well. I can share that with you guys. But for that is included in their basic $22 subscription, by the way. You can create your own voice and experiment with it at their creator level. And what has got crazy, and I know what we wanted to talk about, is about a year ago, they then said, well, if you've created this professional voice clone and want to, you can share it. And we will license it from you, and we will pay you when people use it. And it's just like, great. I was I think the second British voice on the platform, did like I'm doing this, why not? I've got most of my family doing this. I've got actors coming in. And not only is it incredibly realistic, so you can go and find Joanna's latest audiobook of Death Valley and hear her doing it. Abby's books are going to be out with her voice in the very near future because it's a new it's a new model that we're using to do those. But, in her voice, or you can pick one that you just love from their library of thousands.
Yeah.
And what maybe I would criticize ElevenLabs aren't communicating this as strongly as they should be. The fact that the voices are real people who've chosen to license it and are getting compensated for its use and have control of it. Like, I can take my voice out of the library. The only requirement they've asked of me is what notice period do you want to give other users? Because I, as a producer, am not going to use a voice unless I've got it for a year or two if I want to do 3 series.
That would be kind of dirty if I pick your voice and I got a 12-book series.
Yeah, so I'm getting paid a very little amount. Abby is getting paid a very little amount every time it's used. Every character generated, whether it's to create audiobooks, whether it's their conversational AI, whether it's someone just reading a PDF to themselves out of the 11 Reader app, and that has turned out better than we ever thought. I thought it might be pocket money. Abby's just quit a job she hated, because the amount of money that it's bringing in for her has meant she can focus full-time on her writing.
Yeah.
So life-changing for her.
And in that case, you guys decided to do that for her books.
Yeah.
Now you flip the switch, turn that on, and that becomes, I hate this term, but passive income.
It's incredibly passive. For her, it's incredibly passive. I'm managing it all.
Yeah.
But honestly, when it is set up, it is truly passive income coming in. Yeah.
And so I think, what was you and I kind of got excited about when we were talking about off camera is this idea of we're at this novel moment for voice actors where the ones that decide to embrace AI as, a revenue source, right? There's some really interesting strategies, not only that are going to start developing, but that they can be early adopters in.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That I think this is probably one of the first, certainly as we kind of move forward, people will hear more and more about this. But, the idea of how you can, instead of being like, AI is going to take my job, is like, no, I'm going to get AI to work for me.
Yeah. I love, oh my goodness, I find narrators and I will find books that they have narrated rather than search for authors, right? I love good quality, incredible talent that I don't think AI will ever replace. It is the mediocre narrators that need to be worried about this, or the top tier guys who, and I understand the objections, right? But for lots of authors, the cost of audiobook production, the work involved, simply means that the only option for them is to do AI audiobooks. And I find these conversations, and I say, but I've got authors who use my Christopher voice, right? Well, so my voice is Christopher on the platform. Abby is Amelia, if you want to find them and listen to them. And you can listen to me in this recording and compare how Christopher sounds, right? They're incredibly realistic. And for authors who simply can't afford audiobooks, they have readers who are partially sighted, who are dyslexic. And what are we saying? That those readers who love that kind of story shouldn't have access because the author can't afford it, right? There is a genuine, legitimate reason for this. When we know that it's actual human voices going into this, which is another big objection, I think it's very powerful to say this is a starting point for authors. And that then ties across to the voice talent because, we need to start see models emerge where the top tier is like, I can do your book. I can narrate it as I classically have and put all that humanity and amazing work into it. But if you want to access my voice at a more affordable level, that I will license my voice through something like ElevenLabs, and you can get, I'm your dream narrator, right? And you can access me. That is multiplying the market for narrators to a level where suddenly they've got this lower level income coming in as a bottom tier. They are getting their voices out to so many more people because they're not having to do the arduous work of reading it into a microphone.
Yeah, I was just thinking through this. There's the whole idea of what is it that people fear?
Yes.
They fear loss of income. They
Yep.
fear the change
Yep.
and that they're going to get left out or not be able to make the money they had if they've established themselves in a career, or they think that this is something they'd love to do. They're not going to get that shot. This is not a new story. We can go back to when recorded music came out and looking at the research around recorded music. There was all kinds of this is going to ruin musical theater because you come and you see a particular actor sing, and that was, and it scaled their business. Now you could create recordings of that session and new people, you could get new customers, and it wasn't the same, but it got people to know about that particular singer, and it scaled up. And now there's more and more, our whole industry is built around that model. People, yes, you can make money as a live event, but it's all part of the same business model. And I think
within the book world, right? Tying it back to books is 2012. We had Kindle coming out in the UK, right? We were behind you guys, and I was like, oh well, that's the printed book's dead, right? Yeah. Abby is also a bookstagrammer whose entire world is beautiful printed books. Yes. And we're seeing, so Joanna Penn's latest Kickstarter, right, for, had this audible book, had this audiobook in it, but she's selling beautiful special editions that are only available there. It has opened up opportunities to earn income rather than close it down. For sure, and I think that's funny, originally books were illuminated manuscripts, right? Right? And now, we're in an industry that is gone. If you want new young readers, you don't go digital, you go print, and you go high-end print. Absolutely. And you do it at a live event. She loses her mind about sprayed edges, right? Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah. The technology, you can do forced edges, you can do sprayed edges, you can do that stuff. Wasn't even around. I mean, there were some people that were doing it, but it didn't scale, and it didn't have that resonance with this young community that people thought it was going to. And now it's well, what is it? It's they care so much about those stories. They want to own something special. It's about walking by the bookshelf, even though they've never opened up that book and never will. Yeah. They know that they own that. Yeah. Abby has two versions of most of her favorite books, the shelf version, and then there's the version she'll lend out and read. It's amazing. And I think, going back to audio, the other thing she's excited about is there are friends of hers who are dyslexic who could never read her books, who now that we're putting it into audio are able to access that for the first time. And I think just that opening up of market to new readers, you look at what young male the readership, right, is so low, but you look at how they're starting to take off in audio listening. Well, that's something, having clients that write, in fact, Alex Newton and I talked about this a few years ago about audiobooks in romance don't do as well. Why is that? Well, most romance readers read so fast and do this thing in their head with that story that you can't, as a narrator, hit that. Yeah. But now you look at a male audience, science fiction, lit RPG, the audience there is significantly larger, logarithmically larger in audio than it ever is in books. So I have clients that when we started working on this and really focusing on an audio strategy, it's here's what's going to happen. You're really successful in KU. KU is going to be 50% or less of your business when we get after this audio strategy, but it's going to probably grow from where it is today. It's just your audio is going to grow even more because we're going to go get this different audience. We're not trying to turn a KU reader into an audiobook reader. We're trying to get these unknowns out there to know that there's these stories that they can access. So there's again with audio, there's ElevenLabs. It's still testing the early versions of this, but we've got three fundamental versions of audio that you can have for a book. So you've got single narrator, one voice for the whole thing. Duet, pretty popular in young adults and romance. male point of view, male reader, female point of view, but multicast. Right? Some people have seen stuff like The Sandman and Audible, like a huge production thing, right?
Sound booth theater stuff.
Yeah, Jeff Hayes is just, oh my goodness. Matt Dinnerman's books are my favorite. Right, at the flick of a switch, when I drop a book into ElevenLabs Studio, it can assign voices to every character in that book, right? No extra costs. I am creating potentially a multicast audiobook, and there's even sound effects. They've got a vision for this whole production idea at the same cost as a single narrator. And, I would say a single narrator audiobook, 2,000 to 5,000, right? Multicasts, 19,000 starting point, right? You've got directors, you've got multiple talent.
Yeah.
And yet, the idea, now that is going to be a load of work for me as an audiobook producer or as an author doing this. I'm going to have to make sure every voice is assigned right, level it all out, but still, and it's early days, but the idea that we can create fully dramatized adaptions of books, particularly, I think, for that male readership, sci-fi books, you've got the sound effects, you've got the explosions, right? So exciting.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. Well, why don't you tell folks where they can find you, and be sure to make sure you plug everything you need to plug.
Thank you. Yeah, very good. So, so the imprint I've set up for Publishing Abbey and the rest is called 10 Times Better Books. But really, this has all just taken off. I'm so passionate about getting authors using audio. The experience I've got is right at the cutting edge, and I want to share that. It's a little bit intimidating, but I've said that if people can use Atticus or Vellum, and my goodness, if they can use Scrivener, right, they can use ElevenLabs Studio to create a wonderful audiobook right now. So I've set up a company. I'm just putting together training courses right now. It's called Novel Productions. So novel.productions is the website. And it's a family business. Abby's helping with it. My kids are helping, my wife. But ultimately, the plan with that is teach first. So I'm putting together courses of how to do this, how an author can put together their own book. And it's not ElevenLabs exclusive. It's going to be how do you put your virtual voice in there? How do you get it out and use the wonderful audiobook service on BookFunnel? All of that.
Yeah.
The entire AI audio for authors is going to be the course. And that's going to be ready. I wanted it ready for now. And then ElevenLabs, who move like a train, bringing out new stuff, have brought out this amazing version 3 model of what they're doing, which is going to be the next generation of how it works. So we're holding off a month or two. So it's going to be September time, 2025. And you can sign up for a waiting list now on the website to just talk you through the entire process of doing it. And I do encourage people to get into ElevenLabs, to get an account set up. There's like a free tier just to mess around with it. You need the $22 tier to create your own voice. Just spend some time learning to find voices you might love for your characters, putting a book in there and just seeing how easy it is. And the other thing people should check out is ElevenReader, because I think that is an up-and-coming, it's going to shake up the audio market of now authors can publish their books for free to ElevenReader. There's 15,000 books in there already, a couple of thousand authors. You can sign up as an author there, drop your book in. It's like a beta level pricing right now. Someone listens to your book for 11 minutes and you get $1.10 from them. Just super easy. You don't get the control that I think us as authors and publishers should be using to tweak it and make it your own. But even as an experiment to get books in for free onto this platform, it's a great experience. So ElevenReader.io is that. ElevenLabs.io is the studio development tool. And they can find me at novel.productions.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on the show, and hopefully we'll see you in Las Vegas.
Joe, such a pleasure. Thank you for having me.